Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. This is a 5-minute dish, a real quick episode on Rogue One. Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, Len.
All right, so Jim, you saw the Rogue One, the
hmm
movie, before anyone else. You got to see. I guess Disney invited you to a preview. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert: we will be talking about different aspects of the show. So if you don't want to hear it, stop listening now.
hmm
Anyway, Jim, you got to see the show early. What'd you think of it?
to be honest, I really enjoyed it, but again, it's kind of the Lego equivalent of a movie in that it sort of clicks right into New Hope. I mean, it's hard not to appreciate the craft of the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
for example, when you look at Peter Cushing, or Moff Tarkin in this thing, and it's just there's still a part of your brain that goes, wait a minute, that guy's been dead since 1994, you know?
I turned to Laurel. I was like, "Isn't Peter Cushing dead?" We
Yeah,
couldn't figure it out.
you know, and for me, that you have to understand that there was so much writing on this movie because the thing, I mean, face it, Disney paid all this money for Lucasfilm. And, last year, all the pressure was on whether or not Force Awakens could, in fact, restart the Star Wars franchise
Hmm.
and,
Right.
and move the trilogies forward to, I mean, people forget that when Lucas did the interviews around when Empire came out, he talked about how he was initially envisioning a 9-part
Nine. Right.
series.
Right.
And and now if you talk with anybody at Lucasfilm, it's like, oh, it's ongoing. Don't say
Oh yeah,
9.
we're gonna do one a year. Yeah,
Well,
for the
no,
foreseeable future. Yeah, sure.
that's actually the key here, Len. That once that one was out the door, the question was, okay, so can we expand our horizons? Can we do, can we take other pieces of the Star Wars universe
Hmm.
and bring them to the screen? So this was the first. They called it for a while the Star Wars Anthology series. Now it's just known as the Star Wars Story series.
Right.
And this is actually John Knoll, the head of creative development for the studios. That he's an effects guy for years, who actually came to Kathleen Kennedy with the idea of this movie. Kathleen's the
Hmm.
president of Lucasfilm,
Right.
and she was the one where it's like, oh, we, you know, can we do this movie? And and more to the point, if we open this door, what else can we do? And so, there was.
So let's talk about the
Mhm.
premise of the movie.
Yep.
The entire premise of Rogue One
hmm
is literally the first paragraph of Star Wars Episode 4,
hmm
A New Hope. The crawl. The first paragraph in the opening crawl of Star Wars is the story of how the rebels got the plans to the Death Star. That's this entire movie, and so the premise of the movie comes from the first 30 seconds of the Star Wars film.
And not to belabor the obvious here, but anyone who has seen the movie knows there's not going to be a Rogue Two. You know,
Yeah, so yeah, we talked about spoilers here, but let me segue into that.
yep.
You and I
hmm
talked to somebody who had, and we won't name names,
hmm
talked to somebody who had seen the original cut of the film before before Bob Iger ordered reshoots.
hmm
And the person that saw this film said it was the darkest of the Star Wars films he had seen. And he said not in a way like Empire Strikes Back was dark,
hmm
because in Empire Strikes Back the Empire wins. He said it was more like Saving Private Ryan in it was too realistic in its battle scenes and too depressing. And I gotta say, for Rogue One, a movie in which everyone dies in the final version of the film, for that to be the light version
Oh,
of the movie,
yeah.
I don't know I would love to see the original cut just to see how dark it was,
Well,
because I told the world like everyone's dead. Everyone in
yeah.
this movie that we've just followed, everyone is dead.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Though what's kind of interesting here is that I was talking with someone from Lucasfilm last or late last night, early this morning, because they were thrilled, obviously, with the numbers for Thursday and what this weekend is going to
Yeah,
do.
I went last night. Yeah, good.
And so we were talking about Rogue Two, and he said, "Well, if you recall in Jedi, there was that line, many Bothans died to bring us this information." So it's like not necessarily Rogue Two, but perhaps we can explore how they got the information for the second Death Star. So, but yeah,
Oh, right, yeah.
but
But yeah.
seriously,
But the nuclear explosion at the end that kills everyone is kind of the definitive one on these particular characters. Go ahead,
yeah.
you were saying.
But yeah, that's so. Just a review here. So we have episode 8 coming out December of 2017. In fact, one day earlier than Rogue One. It's going to be in the 15th. But then 6 months later, or actually closer to 5, we get Star Wars Han Solo, the next Star Wars story.
Oh, so they
And
really are going to do to Star Wars what they did with Marvel, where they're like
oh no,
6 movies
absolutely,
in
yeah.
production at any given time. Yeah.
They haven't quite gotten as aggressive as Marvel. I mean, face it, next year alone we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 coming out on May 5th, and that's followed by Thor Ragnarok November 3rd of 2017.
Or
So
Fraggle Rock, is that what you're saying?
yeah, that's right. It's Fraggle Rock. Hey, we're finally getting used to Muppets again. Anyway, no, it's just the interesting thing is what's in the hopper. I mean, there was we've got this Han Solo movie. In fact, they've just recast two younger actors to be Han Solo and Lando Calrissian. I'm
Hmm.
blanking on their names at the moment, but beyond that, they've been in serious development on a Boba Fett movie, which has been a challenge because they want to stay true to the character, which means he has to be menacing and scary, but at the same time, in this movie, he has to be the hero.
Right.
You know, so but the one that's genuinely intriguing is that here's Ewan McGregor standing outside of all of this going on, and he has flat out done interviews in the last 6 months, Len, going, "I really want to do an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie." I think
Yeah.
somewhere between episode 3 and 4. And
Because
he's
yeah, that's a great point. Because Obi-Wan Kenobi's story hasn't yet been told fully.
no, that's it exactly. I mean, it's one of these things. So he went and he went and hid in the desert for 30 years. It's like really, or excuse me,
Yeah,
what,
and nothing
15.
happened.
Nothing happened. Just sat there. Oh, the Reader's Digest is here. Good. Okay.
Oh,
Something to do.
fantastic. Boy, I should really think about getting the yard done this week.
But what did you think of the sort of connective tissue stuff? Whether it was like, for example, the two guys from the bar in New Hope
Saw
bumping,
that.
you know,
Yeah, so there were enough nods, and they were subtle enough, I think, that it was you could see that it was a nod to episode 4,
mhm.
and and a callback. I thought the Peter Cushing stuff was just incredible.
Mhm.
You kind of Carrie Fisher is on stage for like 5 seconds,
Mhm.
and I think
Mhm.
she's a little too happy to get the plans, given the fact that millions of people, literally millions of people, just died for the plans. But I thought all the nods were very good. I think the scene that was most impactful
Mhm.
was the very last scene, right before Carrie Fisher or Princess Leia gets the plans, and to see how Darth Vader pursued the actual plans themselves, so the actual capture of Leia's ship. I thought that was a great scene. I thought that was really, really well done.
Well,
In terms of the good.
no, 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 no. I mean, it's funny you say that because that was on Star Wars Rebels, the animated series that's on Disney XD.
Hmm.
It's the same thing that they actually brought in, James Earl Jones to voice the character again,
Hmm.
and it's the exact same thing. This is the big scary Darth Vader at
Yeah,
the height of his powers, and that whole thing where he's taking on, that platoon of soldiers who's standing between him and the door, and how he
yeah,
lays waste to the room.
yeah,
I mean, that's that. See, that's the thing for me is this is the movie that delivered all of those moments that Star Wars fans wanted.
yeah. I thought it was better than Force Awakens. Actually, there were a couple of things that I thought were contrivances, like the scene where they have to get the physical medium on, the tape on which, or the
Hmm.
disc on which, the the Death Star plans are stored, and they're using this sort of like two-handed robotic arm. I mean, you're talking about a civilization that has mastered light speed. They haven't done FTP, file transfer. I mean, why do you need you need a giant robot arm to get a tape? I was looking at Laurel like, if this is on a zip drive. Remember the old Iomega zip drives? If
Yeah.
this is on a zip drive, I'm leaving. And I thought that was a little bit of a contrivance. This sort of like,
Yeah,
we have to flip. There's a lot of like, we have to cross this battlefield to flip this switch type of thing,
hmm
which is, it's
well,
it's bad storytelling.
but at
Um,
the same time, like, understand that the seed for this film comes from the Dirty Dozen, Guns of Navarone. In fact, if you've ever seen Guns of Navarone, the whole thing of the what is it, the recoil mechanism of the giant gun that's it's firing on the Allies is, the bomb is placed just a little, too far back on the recoil thing. And,
yeah,
as a member of the audience, you sit there and wait for the moment when it actually happens. I mean, that's the thing. This is, let's be honest here. Rogue One is cobbled together out of New Hope and so many World War II films. In fact,
yeah.
that's the other thing. Oh, what I love about this movie is that, the famous stories of when Lucas was actually cutting together the fighting sequences for New Hope, the fly, the runs in the
Yeah, he's,
trenches.
he's using World War II footage, right?
That's it exactly. But it's so what so if you think of that movie as more set in Europe,
Yeah.
the European campaign, this is the Pacific. I mean, literally the
So,
assault on the when they're going after where the tape is being held.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
it's
they're on a Caribbean island. They're on they're in the Maldives, not a
yeah,
Caribbean island.
yeah.
They're in the
Um,
So I turned to Laurel when they do the first shot of the island, and I said two things. I said, one, ship's registry, Bahamas, and
mhm.
then I said, and then I said, I don't recall them filming this on Castaway Key, but okay, let's go with it. See what happens. Speaking of the Pacific, one of the things you've mentioned on a number of podcasts is how Disney, uh, Disney's casting of these films
Mhm.
is specifically done to appeal to an international audience. And I gotta say, I loved Donnie Yen as Jared Imwe,
Um,
and he is fantastic in that movie. But you're right. There's he's in it. Um, Jang Wen is in it as
mhm.
Baze Malbus.
Yep.
Who else? Mads Mikkelsen is in it as Galen.
Mhm.
Um, who's the guy? Who's the guy in it that he was in the night of the new series?
Oh, God, I know who you're talking of. Damn it. Okay, sorry.
Oh,
He,
Riz Ahmed.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, played Bodhi Rook. Yeah,
yeah,
he played the pilot. Yeah,
yeah. It's and in fact that's the other thing about the weird thing is this is a Star Wars movie that it really does sort of reflect, our current understanding of war, or more to the point, how complicated things can get sometimes. In fact, that's I love our introduction of our hero, where once he gets some information, and literally in that Han Solo shot first kind of a way, he actually shoots a guy in the back. You
yeah,
know, well, thank you. You're going to slow me down by, you know. But again, the whole notion of he talks about how he's been in this war since he was 6 years old,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and and that in the end is why I think you buy the sacrifice. Though, again, from talking with folks at Lucas, in fact, that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk about the reshoots, and they said, the thing of the reshoots is it's not all giant stuff that we did; it's all little individual scenes, little pieces of the mosaic that we added that lightened it just enough. I mean, it was still serious. I mean, let's face it, this was a dark story that was always had to end this way.
Yeah.
But he talked about how they did a lot of K2 stuff. The droid, they brought the droid back in, and it's like, okay, how can
K2SO, Alan Tudyk as
yeah,
the
how can we
yeah.
lighten this scene? And so
He is actually pretty great in it. Yeah.
oh no, absolutely. And in fact, he, and I love that he gets a hero's death as well. I mean,
like like I said, for people who haven't seen it and who are listening to this, and are hearing these spoilers, we're not joking. Literally, everyone dies at the end of
yeah,
this movie. Yeah, he does. He gets the everyone dies a hero's death,
Hmm.
and which is what it has to be because it's foretold in the crawl of episode 4.
But
All right,
here's,
so Jim, I'll
Mhm.
rank this above average or below average in terms of all Star Wars films.
I would actually say I would group this in like the top 3 or 4. I mean, I think, the weird thing, I mean, there's a lot of us, you who think, like Jedi, we really didn't need the teddy bears. And, the prequels has a lot of talking about trade missions, but I would actually group this in with, well, obviously, it's a Lego piece that connects with New Hope. I'd put it with New Hope and Empire. And I'd say
Me too. That's exactly where I'd put it. I think New Hope and Empire.
Mhm.
You can argue whether those are one or two,
Mhm.
but I think this one might be somewhere in the three, maybe the fourth. I can't think of another movie
Mhm.
that I would want to see again besides this one, because I think the first two are the best. But yeah, I think it's a solid movie.
Well, and I have to tell you, for those, people who are just trying to decide, should I go back? People are going to see this movie and immediately want to see it again for all the Easter eggs and that sort of thing. And I have to
Yeah.
warn you, if what my friend at Lucasfilm says comes to pass, you might want to hold on till February or thereabouts to go out to see it again. There is actually talk of, and again, they're reaching out to individual exhibitors. And, the notion is that, you know, just about the time that people are voting for the Academy for
Hmm.
this movie,
Hmm.
what Disney and Lucasfilm are looking to do is put uh, Rogue One and New Hope out in theaters at the exact same time. Y-
Oh, nice! So you could see the prequel and then New Hope.
Yes, and just the whole notion to show the craft of the thing,
Yeah.
and but again, it was one of these things talking with them with a 57-year-old bladder, and it's like you're going to have an intermission, right? I mean, the first one was 2 hours
Exactly.
and 18 minutes long. You're not just going to go straight from Leia saying, "Hey, we have hope," and then go straight into the new one because I don't want to be with the people who die on the beach, okay?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
But
All right,
so.
one real quick last thing. I was reading somewhere that said that, and you talked about this earlier in the show, in preparation for the upcoming set of movies,
Mhm.
Disney went back and essentially disavowed most of the Star Wars, what was the Star Wars canon at the time. Disney went back and said only the movies and some of the books
Mhm.
are official Star Wars canon. Everything else got put into what's called the Legends.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up because when John Knoll initially pitched the idea of doing this movie about, the rebel spies who got the Death Star plans, there was enough people who worked at Lucasfilm long enough to go, no, wait a minute, didn't we cover that in the radio series that ran on NPR? And sure enough, they had,
Yeah.
and
So
in fact.
I read in the in Wikipedia, which
Mhm.
is the official repository, that there were no less than 9 separate stories
Wow. Okay.
of how the plans got how the plans got stolen.
Mhm.
So yeah, so Disney's disavowed that. This is now the official. This is canon.
Yeah,
Um,
and going forward, but this is now the world we're in now, folks. We are going to continue on with the episodic saga. That'll be every what 2 years now,
yeah,
and in between, we are going to get some very interesting films that sort of bump out the borders of the universe. And
I think it's got to be less pressure too because it's those in between movies. They can be more fun. They can take more chances.
Mhm.
Like this one again, very dark,
Mhm.
but still a good film. So I'm looking forward to those.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it gets just for me, it's fascinating that in fact, it's hard to remember this time last year. You know what was really making the folks at Lucasfilm nervous
You know what?
was Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians had done basically a Star Wars movie,
Hmm.
and the notion was like, oh crap, we're doing the first new Star Wars movie since the last prequel, and
Hmm.
what if people use Guardians, which was fun and had colorful characters and great effects, as the yardstick for our movie, and what if we don't measure up?
We're screwed. Yeah.
But luckily, people really did embrace it. But at the same time, remember, much like what happened with Rogue One, when Harrison Ford broke his leg, they actually were looking at the film and used the fact that Harrison was out of commission for 5 to 6 weeks as an excuse to reshoot a lot of the scenes and make them
Yeah.
lighter.
That's
So
true. Yeah,
yeah.
so they have done reshoots. All right, fair enough.
Mhm.
All right, cool, good, Jim. Thanks for this doing this quick show. We have a bonus another bonus iTunes show for people coming up later on in the month, and then we will be back with our regular schedule on January 1st. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.